You know, the goal of this podcast is to encourage, equip, and inspire the next generation to tell their world about Jesus right where they are, because by 2030, we want to be part of training 1 million teens around the globe to share the gospel. So whether you're a parent, a pastor, or yes, even a student, we are glad you're here, and I hope that you will be inspired out of our time together. Today, I've got one of my great friends. His name is Garrett Wagoner. Garrett, how's it going, my brother?
Great, man. How are you?
Man, I am doing well, bro. Doing well. So excited to have you here. Thanks for taking time to be with me today.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to be here. It's an honor to be on the podcast and to chat and hang out with you today.
There you go, man. There you go. Well, Garrett is an evangelist. He has a ministry, Garrett Wagoner Ministries. He lives in Texas with his wife, Rachel, and sons, Graham, Grayson, and Griffin. I won't tell you what the rest of him is. He says something about some LSU Tigers, but he is a Dallas Cowboy fan, a Dallas Mavericks fan, and a Texas Rangers fan. We just didn't get him over here for the college team, but being from Louisiana, we'll give you that one, the LSU Tigers. Well, hey, they're doing pretty good so far.
One for my childhood, man. You know, even though the Cowboys, I was a convert as a kid. You know, Troy, all them jerseys.
Sucked you in, boy. There you go. Well, man, before we jump in here and get too serious, I want to do some quick rapid fire questions at you.
Sure.
And so, man, let's see where you're at. Number one, are you coffee or energy drink guy?
Man, mainly I am a coffee guy, you know, but I'm a kind of my wife calls me a bougie coffee guy. So I like fresh roasted beans. I don't do the store-bought stuff. You know, I've tasted, I've been to the promised land, and so, but I believe this: desperate times call for desperate measures. So, I know you being in camp ministry for years, and I've been a part of it. Sometimes you got to have both, man. You know.
Yeah, double dose of the Holy Ghost.
When you're on the road, you're traveling. You know.
Yeah,
I believe that. But my wife says I cannot have Red Bull before I preach because I jump my words up. But hey, Celsius to me right now is the way to go. Healthy energy drink.
Okay.
Sometimes, you can drink a cup of coffee in the morning and you can see me drinking a Celsius in the afternoon.
Okay. All right. So speaking of that, are you a morning, midday, or night person?
Man, before I had twins, we've been on this journey. We have Jason and Griffin are 20 months old. I would say I'm an aspiring morning person. But, we put them to bed at 8:00 and they are so high energy. We're just like, we need our time to hang out,
That's right.
Our date time, husband and wife time. So sometimes that could put us in the bed around midnight. And so as of right now, I would say night person.
There you go. You prefer traveling, driving, or flying?
Oh, man, it depends on how long it is. I do love being in my truck. I waited a long time to drive a truck. I drove a little bitty Honda for a long time. My grandpa drove a Chevy, so I like being in my truck. But I do love something about flying in airports. I just like being there. It's crazy.
There you go.
Especially if it's a good airport.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So when it comes to seasons of the year, winter, spring, summer, or fall, what you got?
Fall is for football, man. It feels like Christmas to me. That first weekend of September. Big college football fan. So man, I'm enjoying this time of year, and even my wife says, I'm sad that when football ends, that means it's not going to be on TV anymore. And I'm like, amen.
Man, there you go, boy. There you go. You like the beach or the mountains?
I'd say we're mountain people. We love going to the mountains. Our boys love, especially our older boy, he loves going to the mountains. I would say if I don't have any young, small toddlers or kids with me, I would say I like going to the beach. But, dragging kids and all their stuff to the sand just ain't for us right now.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. So when it comes to desserts, are you a pie or cake guy?
I'm going pie, man. I'm going pie.
Okay. When it comes to the Bible, Old Testament or New Testament?
Man, that's a trick question. I got to say all of it. I'm a Bible guy. It's kind of dangerous putting one over the other, right?
If we looked at your sermons, which one do you preach out of more, the old or the new?
I probably have to say it might edge the new. So we're speaking to teenagers.
Okay, all right. When it comes to the New
That's right.
Testament, four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, which one's your preference?
I would say I'm very fascinated by the book of John right now. I've been studying it, diving into it. I think there's some pretty
All
fascinating
right.
things in there, and some things that are worded in a little bit different than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So it's just really interesting,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
that's where I've been lately.
Yeah. All right. And last, but certainly not least, but I don't want you to answer it right now. I want you to think on it. You're probably not going to have to think, but we're going to let our guests guess. Are you a dog guy or a cat guy? Again, don't answer it right now. We'll circle back at the end, but I want to know, man, dog or cat guy? This is probably going to get me in lots of trouble, but hey, if you want to guess
Man.
right now whether you think Garrett is a dog guy or a cat guy, drop them in the comments wherever you're listening or watching this. And you never know. If you get it right, we might pick somebody to give them a prize. So, Garrett, hang on to that one, man. So, anyway, I told people a while ago you are an evangelist. You have your own ministry, Garrett Wagoner Ministries. And, man, tell us about what you do.
Yeah, well, the heartbeat of our ministry is, we want to make the message of Jesus clear from generation to generation. So I travel full time and share the gospel at different outreach events and churches and a lot of student events, DNAS, camps, conferences. We also do, participate in some training people how to share the gospel. So our passion is, man, in the generation that is confused about all the messages in the world, and even the message of the gospel has gotten confused and watered down. So our heartbeat is we want to present the gospel with passion clearly, who Jesus is, his death, burial, resurrection, the fact that he's coming again. And we want to give the next generation clear opportunities to respond and repent and put their faith in Jesus. So we believe
I
this,
love it.
if you reach the next generation, you change the world. So our heartbeat is being in those next generation settings.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So I have people ask me this a lot of times. So I like to ask my guests this as well. How did you get to be doing what you're doing? You're a traveling evangelist. Man, how did you get there? There are some students who may be watching this, feeling this call in their life or call to ministry, and they're like, they don't know where to start. They don't know how to get to quote unquote where you are. So how'd you get there, man?
Man, it's been a long journey, but I would have to say it started when I was 17. So that's an encouragement to any student out there that's
Yeah.
watching. I would go to, our church brought us to camp, which I'm so grateful for. We used to go to Fuse. I'm from Louisiana, so we would go to different states. We wanted to see some scenery,
Yeah.
and so, just being brought in those settings. And I started a ministry at camp at the age of 16. And my dad is a pastor, and we were from a small town, small country church. And
Mhm.
so when you get called to ministry in the country, they're just going to put you up there. You're going to start preaching. That's just what you do. And so he put me up there, trained me, showed me how to do, put together a sermon. But got up there on a Sunday night and I started preaching, and I realized that was my calling. And as my dad is he's a pastor. I mean, he can stay in there for years at one spot. But he noticed in me at a young age that I had a passion to share the gospel with people that didn't know Jesus. And
Yeah.
when I started preaching, that just kind of came out, and it just has always followed me. I moved to Dallas when I was 18 to go to Bible college, and I've always done traveling evangelism. There was always opportunities to go do this youth revival or go preach this
Mhm.
revival. I was on traveling revival teams in college, directed those. Then I had a role with the convention, as you know, or I did directed student evangelism for
Mhm.
7 years, camps and conference, and I traveled then I was in the local church, served in our local church on staff during the COVID season for 2 years, and then I had that itch when people started doing events again. It was like I started getting calls, and so it's like I can't get away from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this past year, we made it official. We said we're just going to go in it full time,
Mm.
and so we've been in it for a year. And with the help of R.A.G.E, also, we're so grateful for you and your team for helping us get boosted and get off the ground. We're still trying to do that, but God's been good. So this is what we do.
That's awesome, man. I think, as I ask different people that question, a common kind of thread is just, man, being faithful where you are in the season you're in. And when you're faithful there, God's going to put people in your life that may speak into your gifting and may say, hey, man, you said your dad saw this in you. And so that's important right there, man. Be faithful where you are, but listen to that the desire of your heart and the people that are around you that you trust and know they love Jesus, um, to speak into you and give you those opportunity. That's awesome, man. So I love that. Well, obviously, we share a common passion about reaching this next generation, and you said, if we reach this next generation, man, we will change the world. So, why are you so passionate about reaching this next generation?
Man, I've adopted Psalm 145 as my life chapter, and it's actually the mission of our ministry. It comes straight from that. David's in there and he's exploring the greatness of God, and he says, your greatness is unsearchable, and he's just enjoying the Lord. And then he kind of takes a turn and he says, man, one generation will declare your works to the next and will proclaim your mighty acts. So I love the progression in that psalm. He goes, if I do it, they will do it. And so
Yeah.
you see his heartbeat for the next generation. I think that's the whole theme of the Bible, that every time something big has happened, revival, spiritual awakening, which we're so desperate for right now, it's been through the young generation, and the young generation is on God's heart. And I think that's where it's at. That's where the life change happens. It's great to be, take the front row seat to see that when you minister to the next gen.
Man, that's so good. Such a great reminder. It can't stop with us. And, we have to share to that next generation. Talking about that, like sharing to the next generation, talking to the next generation about Jesus. I know you and I share a common passion in talking to other people about Jesus. Not that we kill it every time, but why do you feel like, or what's a reason you're seeing when you're with teenagers, with even, youth pastors or churches? Why do you feel maybe sometimes people don't share the gospel, even though they know they need to be sharing it? What do you have anything that's kind of coming up more recently than others? Hey, here's a reason why.
Yeah, I think even going back to Psalm 145, I think people aren't putting their eyes on Jesus, or they have maybe a watered down, weak picture of Jesus. I remember where it all started for me. It wasn't somebody that sat me down and said, hey, you need to go share the gospel. And I didn't go do it because somebody guilted me into it. I started walking with the Lord. I started realizing, wow, even at the age of 16, that God's awesome and His presence is awesome. And, started getting up and spending time with Him every day before I did anything. And then all of a sudden I'm at school sharing with my friends, like passionate about it. And I think I think people need to fall in love with the person of Jesus again. And then when that fire is sparked, then they're ready to be trained, and we come alongside and say, hey, we can train you and equip you and show you how to do this effectively. And so, yeah, I think it's just getting that fire, that whatever we're passionate about, we talk about. I mean, I could talk to you about college football all day long, on this podcast, but
Yeah.
when the love for the Lord is first, then yeah, we have no problem, finding people or connecting with people or, talking to people about Jesus.
Yeah, it just kind of comes up in conversation. I really appreciate that, because I do believe it's a love God, love people. It's a love God first, and out of our love for God, we're going to fall in love with people, and out of our love for God, we're going to talk to other people about Him. And so, man, I think that's spot on, dude. It's so good. Just a reminder that we can't talk about or share about what we're not about. So I love that, dude. So good, so good. So hey, I tell people, I think out of that, listen, if you're not feeling a fire or passion for evangelism, then spend some more time with Jesus, spend some more time with the Lord. And out of that, the Holy Spirit's going to ignite this passion to share. So, well, we know that, that when it comes to sharing our faith or talking to others about Jesus, like we can't do everything. And there are people who are kind of starting at zero, right? Like they're like, hey, I want to take that next step. I want to be serious about sharing my faith. I want to tell my friend about Jesus, or I want to be able to just have a Jesus conversation with anyone, anywhere, at any time, but they don't know where to start. And so, what is maybe one first step or one step that you as an evangelist would share with someone today? Hey, if they're wanting to get serious about sharing their faith, what is a step they could take today?
Yeah, I would say immerse themselves in the gospel, find a quality tool. Like I know you have 1millionsit.com that R.A.G.E Ministries has created, and it's a great avenue for someone to go and say, hey, immerse yourself in the content of the gospel, like who Jesus is,
Yeah.
his death, burial, resurrection, learn how to present that, because you can't talk about the cross without talking about the resurrection. Sometimes when
Hmm.
people share the gospel, like, oh, they stop at the cross, but Jesus
Yeah.
still isn't dead anymore, right? So immerse
Mhm.
yourself in those key points and find a great training tool. I mean, there's so many apps out
Yeah.
there. I mean, we got 1 Million Spin. I know
Hmm.
ministries like Dare to Share has a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, Life in Six
Yeah.
Words, the Three
Yeah.
Circles, all these free apps. So find something that works for you, and immerse yourself and learn from those who do it well.
That's good, man. That's good. I think just that, and you've got to find what works well with you. Romans Road may not work well for everybody. Three Circles may not work well for everybody.
Yeah.
The emoji evangelism may not work, but find something that works for you and do that. I just think that's the deal, first and foremost. And so if you're a student pastor, or you're a student watching this, or you're a parent, and you're like, hey, I want to help my students. I want to help myself. I want to help my children take that next step in sharing their faith. I would just say find a good tool and learn it together. Like, just sit there and learn it together. I remember, Garrett, when I led my oldest daughter to the Lord, it was off of an app on my iPad, because she really loved technology and all that stuff. And it was just a simple, using the bridge illustration. And then I taught her how to do that as well. And so it's amazing. A lot of times when we're training people, we see people get saved because they've never heard the gospel or understood it like that
Mhm.
before. And now they're kind of like, Paul, man, the scales fall off their eyes. They're like, oh man, whoa, this is the gospel, right? So I love that, man. Find a good tool. Like Garrett said, you could check out 1millioncent.com. If you go there, there's kind of three things there for you. Number one, if you want to be trained, there's a thing there. Number two, if you want to train a group, there's also information on that. And then lastly, if you just want to share the gospel with somebody, we have a really quick just presentation of the gospel that you could share out with family and friends and say, hey, check this out. Let me know what you think. All of it's free. So go check that out at 1millioncent.com. But Garrett, this whole podcast, man, is just really about inspiring, equipping, others to share their faith, specifically teens. And I just wonder, man, people kind of resonate with stories. And so, is there a story in your life where you saw a teenager get it? You saw someone, man, really go, hey, I'm not just going to talk about living sent, man, I'm going to live sent. I know Jesus, and man, I need to make him known. And maybe it was a training, maybe it was a sermon, maybe it was just an encounter. And you're like, but do you have a story in your life where you saw a teenager like get it, man, and they started just living on mission?
Yeah, I think it was this past spring. I went and did like a Bring Your Friend Sunday for a pastor friend of mine, and get this, I didn't hear about this until this didn't happen until a month after I went there and shared the
Mhm.
gospel. There was one, of course, younger 12-year-old boy who got saved, and his Sunday school teachers have been praying for him, and that was awesome. We celebrated that. Then a month later, the pastor calls me and says, "Hey, you need to hear about what happened. There was a teenager who thought about your message for a couple of weeks after that, and gave his life to Jesus." And they had a school that met on their church campus. And so he said, I want to get baptized in front of all my friends. And so he did at school, got
Wow.
baptized in front of all of his friends.
Wow.
And then four of his friends heard about or saw that and said, we want that, And so they gave their
Wow.
lives to Jesus and they were baptized. So it takes, just being bold, and being choking back the worry and fear about what other people think about
Yeah.
you. Especially, I know high school and middle school can be rough with that.
Mhm.
I remember doing that too. I remember choking back fear, the lump in my throat, and just hitting people up with the gospel. It was because of what the Lord
Yeah.
was doing in my heart in high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the most powerful things I've seen
Oh,
recently.
dude. Yeah. That's I was talking to one of our guys on another podcast, and he's like, used to one of my favorite things was leading someone to Jesus, but now it's when I hear about someone who's been led to Jesus leading someone else to Jesus. And
Mm.
man, that's so good. I love that story, man, of the student meeting Jesus, going public with his faith, and out of that, man, just drawing others in. That's what it's about. That's multiplication, man. That's why we do what we do. I believe that's part of the call of the evangelist, is not just to preach the gospel, but to prepare others to do the same. So, Garrett, before we jump off here, man, I want you to share real quickly, how can people connect with you? Maybe somebody resonated with what you're saying today. Maybe they want to bring you in. as part of an event or do some training, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I have my website, which is pretty easy to remember, GarrettWagoner.com. You can go on there, and if you're interested in booking, you can just click book. Also, on all social media accounts, it's at GWAG Speak. So GWAG Speak. Pretty easy to remember. Facebook,
There you go.
Instagram, Twitter. So give me a follow, shoot me a
Nice.
direct message, or go to our website. We'd love to
Yeah.
connect with you.
That's awesome. And we'll make sure we drop all that in the show notes as well. So, Garrett, it's that time, man, to bring it all the way back around to our final question that we asked in the rapid fire. I honestly don't know what you are. I think I know what you are, but I'm not sure. But, man, is Garrett Wagner a dog guy or a cat guy? Let the world know.
Dog all the way, man. We got to have the dog. There's a lot of reasons. I like dogs that don't shed too. They don't get, like, my wife says that.
Amen.
So we have a poodle. What do they call their
There you go.
hyperallergenic or something like that? But
Yeah, something like
yeah,
that.
I'm definitely dog guy. Cat. If you've ever searched for houses, I know you have in your lifetime. Uh, I know we have in our young lives. When you're searching for houses and you go in and one of them just smells like urine, or that's because it's from cats, man. People just let these cats in their house, and they go to the bathroom on everything, and then the way to take care of them, like, this is the worst invention. That litter boxes, come on, they were
Oh,
the
they're awful.
dirtiest things I've ever seen. Like, let me
Yes,
get
it's awful.
some sand or rubble, and let the cat go number two in it, and I'm gonna stick it in my closet, or
Oh my gosh. Or where your
it's
clean
just
clothes are. Most of them are in the
yeah,
laundry rooms. I'm
or
like,
the
what are
laundry
you
room where
doing?
you clean clothes. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. I don't understand. People, I have a lot of people that I love that love cats. So no offense, but I just don't
Yeah.
understand your
Well,
fascination.
hey,
We do have a stray cat that my son and wife adopted. I said they're
yeah.
good for killing rats, but he's never
Yeah.
coming inside. It's
Yeah,
too
that's right. If they're
hard.
outside, man, they're awesome. I agree, man.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, they do
That's
kill the
awesome,
rats.
man. Well, thanks for not letting me down on that one and saying
Yeah,
something dumb like you're a cat person. No, I'm kidding. So,
and I'm
hey,
sorry
well,
to all those people out there that are.
yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Well, if you're a dog or a cat person, we want you to know you're welcome here. We love you, and
Yeah, you're
honestly,
accepted.
it's just you're accepted, man. It's just a fun question to
Yeah,
ask. So, Garrett, thanks for being on here today, man. It was a joy to have you, and know that we're praying for you. Excited for what God is doing. And listen, if you're watching this. And man, we can help you in any way. Make sure that you reach out to us, whether you drop a line at 1millionscent.com or go to rageministries.com. Man, our goal is to help you, number one, just fall in love with Jesus, and number two, to be able to share Jesus where you are with whoever you're around. So thank you for tuning in today. I can't wait to see you next time. Until then, hey, today, don't forget, is a great day to tell someone about Jesus.
come on.
Let's go.